I'm sorry to cut off Jay-Z, but good morning, everybody. This is Red and Circus. I'm Kyle Smith.
And I'm Jose Tapia.
We were not on air last week because I was deathly ill. I was so close to death, and everyone should praise me for being so courageous.
Praise be.
Yeah, praise be. No, I was just sick. Also, before we get started today, not to pat ourselves on the back or anything, but Jose and I won Rookies of the Year, and I'm not saying that to be cocky. I'm saying that because I'm really appreciative of everything the station's done for both of us. We've had a great time this semester, and I'm just happy that I got this opportunity.
Me too. It was great.
Yeah. So I really thank everyone for that. Moving on. Good morning, everyone. So we're going to go back to last Sunday. As many of you have probably heard, there were coordinated bombings in Sri Lanka on Easter Day, Easter morning, during service, coordinated by a small terrorist cell, but ISIS claimed the bombings. The original death toll stood around 359. That's been reduced to around 290, but they're still trying to figure out the exact number.
So it's a lot of people.
Yeah.
Jesus.
It was at several churches and hotels.
And all attacks on Christians?
Well, Christian churches, yeah.
So did people say this is in retaliation for the Christchurch massacre?
Not as far as I know. It was just a bombing on Easter. Following up, just yesterday, there was a raid on a house 25 miles from one of the bombings. Before the raid even occurred, the suspects inside the house detonated explosives, killing 15, including children, a couple children. One woman and one child, both seriously wounded, were evacuated from the house and taken to the hospital. Everyone else within the house was dead, and obviously were suspected of being connected to the Easter bombings.
That's awful.
Yeah. Before we get into talks on Islam and also responses to the bombings back here in the U.S., I just want to say it's an important fact that the suspects were actually tipped off by a member of the Mosque Federation in Sri Lanka. The area that this house was in a highly dense Muslim area, but it's important to know that a Muslim tipped off the authorities. So when we get into talks of Islam as a whole, again, that is not for us to say that all Muslims think exactly the same and then all Muslims support terrorism. But it is a problem that the religion itself has. But again, I just want to reassure that it is important to note that I keep that detail in there because of this man that tipped him off tipped the authorities of the suspicious behavior, that these people were found out and, well, not caught because they blew themselves up. But it is important that they weren't trying to protect each other just because they all share the same religion.
Yeah, there is conflict within.
Yeah.
It's getting to the point where it's blowing up all across the globe. It's not back in the 80s with Saddam Hussein and Al Qaeda. They're usually localized to, regions, the regional areas, regions of power, Middle East. ISIS is a different story. Radicalization can begin, online. We're so globally connected now that somebody with an idea in, say, the Middle East could, find commonality with people in Australia, in Europe, in Sri Lanka, and that's how ideas spread. And it's getting more coordinated now and more deadly. What do you think, Kyle?
Exactly, for sure. Even look at the early stages of the migration into Europe from the Syrian civil war, though most migrants weren't actually Syrian. You had that giant shooting in France, several truck attacks. For all the talk of supposedly white supremacy attacks increasing, which that's been disputed. Islamic attacks still are by far way more frequent and way deadlier, especially in Europe.
So why is that fact so hotly disputed? Is it something innate in maybe people in Western societies to feel pity or feel bad?
Wait, which is disputed?
What question?
Which is disputed? Islamic attacks or white supremacist attacks?
Both, actually.
Oh.
Well, Islamic attacks are disputed, saying that they're not as... There's articles all over the place saying they're not as prevalent as white supremacist attacks, and I think that's common in Western media saying that.
Well, just like the ADL came out and said, oh, the number of white supremacist cells are increasing, but included in the quote-unquote cells, as in like groups, they were counting individuals in some stances, as part of their research, and obviously that's misleading then. An individual is not... They said specifically, cells or groups, and then they started counting individuals in order to buff up the number to probably serve
people
an agenda
numbers.
because it's the ADL, and the ADL is terrible.
Yeah, fun fact, ADL is terrible.
Yeah, the ADL sucks. It is the media matters of supposed,
what do they call
anti-hate.
themselves? Yeah, anti-hate groups.
ADL stands for Anti-Defamation League, but I mean, this is the group that says that Pepe is a white supremacist symbol, so...
These people just don't understand.
For those of you who don't know, Pepe it's just a dumb frog meme. It doesn't mean anything inherently.
Yeah, this new Hong Kong meme that's becoming quite prevalent on Facebook and other social media.
Yeah, well, the problem with the left is they'll take a meme, they'll attach a meaning to it, and then they'll mark it as taboo, and people will spread it more because people like being taboo. But
It's
also,
fun.
it's dumb. It's just just hand all this culturally relevant stuff to other people, like your supposed enemies. Like, oh, milk is the new white supremacist symbol? Yes, give white supremacists milk. Just have everything. Have my house. That's white supremacist too. But back to this. Especially even, first of all, some of the bombings on the Easter bombings were suicide bombings. Obviously, the suspects blew themselves up before they were even raided. The problem with Islam is that is the idea of that you can kill yourself in the search for jihad, and you'll go to heaven for it. You'll be rewarded for it in the afterlife.
72 virgins.
Yeah, and that's not an idea that's perpetrated by any other religion, or at least major religion.
Yeah, no.
The idea of that killing is peace, like that you are helping your religion by killing off infidels. That's not an idea that's present in Judaism or Christianity or Buddhism. And that's what leads to the numbers. We've talked about Islam before. About 20% of the world's Islamic population fits into the higher tiers of extremism, even if that doesn't mean physical extremism like jihadism, terrorism. Still, Islamists, I'd put Islamists also in the extreme category. They'll just do it through changing the government rather than killing you.
Yeah, they'll get the law on their side.
Yeah.
That's the most secure way to transform a state.
Yeah, and we've talked about the specifics before of Muslim populations, both in Islamic countries and even second world countries like Russia. High percentages believe stoning for adultery is all right. They believe that you should be killed for leaving the religion.
Yep, apostasy is heresy and punishable by death. That is extremely relevant today.
Yeah.
But people in the Western world don't ever really see that.
So again, that's why I made sure to include the detail that the authorities were tipped off by a Muslim man, that there are good and conscious people in that practice Islam, but that doesn't mean that it's vice versa. So you shouldn't look at every Muslim person as necessarily being an evil person because they practice Islam. But you shouldn't go the other way as like, oh, there's this one good Muslim person, therefore it's really the religion of peace, because it's not.
That's an illogical way to look at it.
Because
There's examples from history showing what happens when Islam takes over the state. Look at the Iranian Revolution.
Yeah.
There's historical examples of what happens, and people still blind eye to these.
Yeah, I'm only saying this because I want individuals to be protected, but that doesn't mean to deny the overall issue.
Correct.
Which is getting into, before we get to the Obama and Clinton's response, I just want to read a headline from the New York Times. So after the Easter bombing, this is what the New York Times thought was most needed to focus on. Quote, after the Sri Lanka terror attacks, the Muslims fear backlash.
Always with the fear mongering.
Well, see, is it possible that some innocent Muslims face something because of this attack in Sri Lanka? Maybe. But you're going off of a hypothetical versus what reality is, that hundreds of Christians died, but you'd rather focus on the hypothetical that maybe somewhere one or two innocent Muslims will face some sort of retribution.
Yeah, that's not really looking at the crux of the issue, what's happening here. Because,
again, I think that for some reason Islam gets put up high on the
victim ladder?
On the victim ladder, and I'm not really... I really don't get why. Like, that is the one I understand the least of why they're up high on the victim ladder.
I think it has a lot to do with probably 9/11 and the general, perhaps, people feel that was a bad idea, and associated with that was Islam. And so, in retaliation against that, some culture developed around the idea that us being there was bad, therefore Islam itself can't be that bad. Maybe. That's just a speculation.
Yeah, I don't get it, because just like look at the far left and all conservatives are sexist and this and that, and then they'll stick up for Islam, which genuinely is those things. Yes, it doesn't make any sense. Just because it's practiced mostly by brown people, not my old white men.
Yeah, they have a bone out for them as well. I don't know, man.
As Chris Farley said in Black Sheep, kill Whitey. I love that scene. Anyways, yeah, we've talked about this before. I don't get it. I think Islam is... I don't think it's controversial to say that Islam is the most quote-unquote problematic religion there is.
Just read about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Moving on also to America's response to it. Hillary Clinton and former President Barack Obama both offered condolences, but they put an odd wording into it. They referred to Christians as Easter worshippers.
Easter worshippers.
And first of all, no other religion worships Easter other than Christians.
Yeah.
Yeah, and second, from the Christchurch shooting, they had no problem with saying Muslims specifically.
Yep.
But when it comes to offering condolences to Christian victims, and And what we were just saying about white people, not even white Christians. This is Sri Lanka we're talking about. I have to say Easter worshippers, which is not a term I have ever heard before this.
Never. There's an article by RT. Perhaps you think it's sponsored by the Russian government. Either way, I think sometimes they're funny. For Christ's sake, why do liberals get tongue-tied when discussing the world's largest religion? Following Sri Lanka's Easter tragedy, high-ranking Democrats engaged in a game of semantics gymnastics, dancing around the name of Christians. Republicans took it as proof of democratic enmity to Christianity. But often people, when Democratic governors were offering their condolences on Twitter and whatnot, only 2 Democrats that I know of mentioned Christians by name, which were Beto O'Rourke and Kamala, not Kamala Harris.
Don't say Beto like Beto. The dude's white.
What's his name? I don't know.
Robert.
The
dude's white.
Isn't he Irish?
Yeah, something like that. But go on.
There's like a weird story between the Irish and Mexican people. It's kind of funny.
Anyway, continue. I just wanted to make sure.
What's the Hawaiian senator's name? Remember her?
Mazie Hirono?
No. She's like.
Oh.
Gabby. Tulsi Gabbard.
Tulsi Gabbard.
Yeah, that's the only other Democrat that mentioned Christians by name.
Yeah. Like, did they have just like a memo sent out? Like,
I often
they
wonder.
all come out with the same stuff. It's just like the same with the media. Sometimes headlines like are so similar. Just
they're trying to present a unified front. If that means all doing the same thing that's stupid, then they will do that.
But like politically,
it's dumb.
But I'm saying like politically, what does it gain you to say Easter worshippers?
I don't know what they're thinking, honestly. It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, so people are just baffled. I don't know.
But even if you want to say like, okay, there's agnostics or whatever that like celebrate Easter just as a day to get family together and stuff. It's just like, but this attack was specifically on Christians. It was on churches. So there's, even from that point of view, there still is nothing wrong with saying Christians. It's specifically on Christians that happened on Easter.
Yeah, but if they say that, then they views Christians as a victim, and Christians can't be victims because Christians are always white people, and white people can't be victims. See that the logic there that flows?
Well, I mean, they try to present Christians as always white people, but
yeah, dude. What about all the Mexican Catholics, the Irish Catholics?
Yeah. Anyways, this is all dumb. Moving on to more dumb stuff. Charlize Theron, who's some actress I've never heard of. I just think this is dumb.
She's a very famous actress, actually.
Well, I don't know her, and therefore, if I don't know her, then she's not worth knowing. Because I'm right. Anyways, she came out and said that she has 2 beautiful Black African daughters because she's adopted 2 babies from Africa. But curious. One's a biological boy, one's a biological girl. So she says her biological adopted son is trans, and he's only 7.
How?
Her reasoning for this, and he's dressing in dresses and stuff. Her reasoning is that when he was 3, he said, "I'm not a boy."
Wow.
When the boy was 3. I mean, you're already dumb at 7, but you're obviously even dumber at 3. You'll just say anything that you hear. He said, "I'm not a boy." And that was reason enough to believe, hey, my son is trans.
I think this is getting really wacky, bro.
So that leads me into questions. A couple things. Is that when is a credible age to truly like believe someone when they think they're trans or say that they're trans? 2, when is this at this young of an age and it seems at least partially forced? Is that child abuse? And
I would definitely get DPS involved.
What would you do as a parent? For me, like, if I had a son or daughter that thought they were trans, first of all, I wouldn't even listen to them until maybe 15, 16.
Yeah.
And and then I would not let them get hormones until they're 18. At 18 they could go get them anyways. It's not because I look down on people who do that. It's just that that's a huge life choice, and people untransition all the time. They just say, yeah, I don't know what I was thinking. I'm a dude. And I just want to make sure that you know what you're doing. That's a huge deal. And not only that, if you start hormones too early, it could outright screw up your physical development. There's a trans girl that has a reality
Jazz
show.
Jennings.
Yeah, and she started hormones too early so that her penis didn't fully develop, and because that didn't happen, she can't get a sex change now. So
What is going on, man?
there are a ton of issues with it, but not only,
I think this is a medical gray area that hasn't been fully explored yet because nobody really wants to go there and develop laws about it.
yeah. Though I mean, Blair White says the same thing, just like you shouldn't be on hormones till 18. And Blair White, for those who don't know,
Yes, explain who she is.
Blair White is actually a transsexual political YouTuber. She's actually, well, I use the pronouns they want to use just out of respect. She is she's actually kind of more towards she's definitely not an SJW. I don't want to say conservative, but pretty in the middle, maybe leans slightly right. Definitely on a lot of things. I'm just saying overall.
Yeah.
And she's against all this like crazy trans stuff. Like, no, you shouldn't be transitioning when you're 7, and that.
Yeah, dude, that's so crazy. That's so crazy, man.
Yeah. Well, it's another topic too. Is like the masculinity of the U.S. might be getting diminished by sort of like feminist thought.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying literally every person, because every parent gets to run their own household, and so you have parents that let boys be boys, and no, not in the sense that like, oh, boys are allowed to do dumb stuff just because they're boys, but I'm just saying literally just let boys be masculine. Society can only affect them so much. I think their parents have more influence than society overall, but
I think after a certain point, society for them becomes their peers, and their peers are what influence them. And so
I know my dad would think that America's losing some masculinity.
Oh, I definitely agree with that. I definitely agree with that. Watch The Sopranos. It outlines the decline of American society perfectly.
Yeah. I've only watched the first episode.
You should watch some more. It's pretty good. Pretty good. For those who are watching.
Yeah.
Sponsor me, HBO. I'm kidding. What were we talking about?
We were talking about
the decline of masculinity.
There's a lot of topics in this. So, like, what you do is, if that was your kid, what would you do as a parent? Should it be child abuse when it's that young and you're pretty sure that it's more the parent than the kid?
It's so obvious.
Yeah.
That they're like coaching them, and for people to think that, oh, it's so wrong, or to think that the parents could be coaching them,
or even if the kid is saying it, which first of all, I don't think the kid would be saying it unless the parent had some influence. But even if the kid was saying it, just say no. You can just say no. Just be like, you can make that decision when you're older, but right now, no. Like, you can wear what you want, but you're not going to transition. You're not going to do this or that,
Yeah. What are they going to do? Pout?
Yes.
Run away? That's what I think. I think that's a lot of parents are afraid of, perhaps.
Maybe.
Losing their children. For the ones who are maybe in some sick, twisted way really care about their children. Maybe that's what they're afraid of.
Well, but
I don't know.
I mean, it's in this particular instance, it's not care, it's selfishness. It's like she probably wants that really. Be like, look how good of a feminist I am, or this or that, and I'm letting my kid be trans, even though I
think it's so small though. But it's becoming bigger. I think.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely become more of a trend just because we see it. on the news so often.
Well, I mean, I worry about America's youth for several reasons. Like,
The Zoomers,
at the same
we have
time,
to save
my
the Zoomers.
at the same time, like, I don't want the government having too much influence in family life.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I want that mostly to be up to the parents. But at the same time, it's really important because the youth is going to be running this nation, and I want this nation to go in a positive direction.
Correct. I think the government does have influence on how family structure is oriented, because if there are I guess in Hungary's doing, I think, an experiment with this, where if there's government incentive for you to have a large family, then there will be more of a monetary incentive and therefore like a societal incentive to invest in large families. In the United States, I think we're getting things kind of backwards now, where the father cannot be in the picture, or the family can be incomplete and still subsist off the state. And I think there are some extreme cases, and not all cases are the terrible ones. But I think, given the statistics and how many people in Black and Hispanic communities are born out of wedlock to single-parent households, I think is a concern, because single-parent households follow a trend of crime and just not the best life for their children.
Yeah, I was actually talking about this the other day with someone. I also, when it comes to worrying about the youth, I also worry about Black youth because of single-parent household percentages being so high. And I hear sometimes people defend those statistics by saying, oh, you're only bringing this up because you're a racist and blah, blah. I'm like, no, or at least for me particularly, I can't vouch for anyone else. I'll bring up those statistics because I worry about those kids, not because I'm saying, oh, look, Black people are inferior. No.
Yeah.
I want those percentages for single-parent households to be way less common because it's way healthier for the kids. I want everyone to live in a more moral, healthy world. I mean, it's not because I am saying, oh, look, white people or this or that are superior.
No, yeah.
And just the same as this is, the kid should be who they want to be, and you shouldn't force some feminist theory onto them on how they should act. Just like I saw a story not too long ago, this woman named her son, and she's a single mom. This woman named her son Vagina just because, like, oh, the societal stigma against women. It's just like, that is the most selfish thing possible. You're going to have your kid be bullied just because you could feel good about yourself and your feminist theory.
Yeah. Their ideology is pouring out into their real life, and it's disgusting.
Yeah, so I don't know if this issue is new. Like, the issue of parents trying to shape their child's, selfishly trying to shape their child's lives is not new. It's just now it's branched into, like, really far SJW, trans, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, but the general idea is not new.
No.
And it's still as unhealthy as it is with other things. I mean, you should give influence, but you shouldn't force your child to do anything.
Yeah, they're their own people. You should, I mean, there's care for them.
Yeah.
And part of that is not forcing your ideology on them.
Yeah. Well, anyways, we are out of time.
Oh, we are?
Well, it's 11:32.
Oops.
Yeah.
All right, fellas. Nice talking to you today.
Yeah, we don't know what's going on because next week's finals, and it's not like we're students. But we'll see. We may or may not be back next week.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Everyone have a good day.
Yeah, you too, guys. Bye-bye.
Again, thanks to the station.